Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day's going fantastic. Thanks for joining me. Well, today we are playing with pattern paper again. This is card number 8 of my DSP paper play series. We are going to be using a retro sketch. Love these sketches. This is retro sketches number 133. And if you guys want to know more inspiration about the retro sketches, I found their blog on Pinterest. I'll leave a link over on my blog if you guys want to check it out. But there's tons of inspiration with lots of fun sketches over there. And today we're going to be playing with this one. This is actually a square sketch, but we're going to turn it into an A2 size card. We are using the Heartland Farm 6x6 paper pad. It's from American Crafts. Now, how I like to store my pads, I've mentioned this before, but I just take a Ziploc baggie, trim off the top, and then I put my paper pads in because I like to keep my scraps inside the same paper pad, and so this way they don't fall out, and I store them upside down in those paper packs. So it's just a little tip and trick. Okay, these are the patterns that I chose today for my card. Some pattern papers have that little extra pattern strip on the very top. I'm going to actually use that today. There is a hole through it, but no worries. We're gonna work around it. With this pattern paper, we're going to create a background panel, and it measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. So it's going to leave me a little bit of a border on my card base. And then this is like a blue gingham print on the very top piece. I know there's a word for those, but I just don't know it. But I might as well use it. It coordinates beautifully. I'm going to cut down a 1/4 inch strip here, and we're going to use that for our project today. Now we're going to use our blue pattern paper underneath here, and this kind of reminds me of a real country print, like a bandana. I'm going to cut 2 panels with this, or 2 pieces with this. My first one here is going to measure 2 1/4 inches wide by 4 inches tall. So we're just going to trim this piece, and then my second piece is going to be the same height, so it's going to be 4 inches tall, but it's only going to be 3/4 inches wide. So a real thin strip. Okay, that's good to go. We're going to set these aside. Now, as I was looking at this pattern paper, this has a smaller red gingham print on the very top, and I'm going to layer the red on the bottom and the blue pattern paper on the top of that. So I'm thinking maybe I'll use the red instead of the blue. The blue gingham print that we trimmed down from the very top was a little bit darker, and it would work, but I think the red's going to work better. So I cut down a 1/4 inch strip with that too. Okay, we'll set these aside, and then we are going to do some die cutting. I have these 2 pattern papers here. One of the green one is really pretty. It has some white flowers on it. I'm going to die cut out some leaves using the Paper Smooches Foliage 1 die set. Now guys, always with my pattern paper series, I use what I have in my stash, and there's some dies that I don't want to get rid of because I like them a lot, but they're not available anymore. But leaf flourishes, there's an abundance out there of leaf flourish dies, and I think it would be easy to substitute. I don't think this Paper Smooches die is available anymore, but if it is, I'll link it for you. But fortunately, I don't think it's available. Now I have a few sets of circle dies. This one is a Cottage Cuts circle die set. It has stitch detail on there, and there's some smaller circles in this die set versus my double stitched circle die set. So I'm going to use this and use the 3 smaller circles and die cut out these with some of the yellow gingham pattern paper here. Now for my sentiment, I have a white strip of cardstock, and we are going to be using a die set from Simon Says Stamp. This one here is called the Everyday Words on a Line die set. Fun sentiments in here that are small, and they're on a real thin line, and I thought this would work great for my sentiment today. And I know this is probably pretty relevant die set. It was from their few releases back, so I know that this is available, and I'll link it down below. But those are all the dies that we're going to be using today. So we're going to bring in the Platinum 6, and let's do some die cutting. Easy peasy. We'll just line these up. We're going to make a country card today, if you haven't guessed. I love country patterns, and I think it makes a fun card. I live out in the country, and so I love stuff about country. So we'll set these aside, move our machine out of the way, and then I'm just going to use my craft pick and punch out all of my elements here. I think this is nice too for the summertime. You want to make a thank you card for the summertime. We'll just punch these out. Those are good to go. Use our craft pick and punch our leaf out. And then after we have this punched out, you can see how pretty it is. There's little white flowers in this green pattern paper, and I think it just goes really good with the yellow gingham print. Okay, put these back, and then we're gonna punch out our thanks. And this is a real neat sentiment. The line on here is super duper thin. I don't think I could cut it this thin with my paper trimmer, but I think it's gonna work out good for my sentiment. Just punch this out. This one says thanks. Punch out those inside pieces and we're good to go. You can see how thin that line is. Okay, so that's all the die cutting we're doing and all the paper trimming we're going to do. We are going to build our card. We are going to start off by corner rounding our blue pattern paper here. Let's bring in our background pieces here. Now we're going to go the opposite of what the sketch shows. I like to give it a Tina twist, and so instead of putting the smaller piece to the right, we're going to actually put the smaller piece over to the left. So that means we need to corner round the inside piece on the left side of this panel. I'm just using my Fun Stampers Journey corner rounder here. And thank you for all the tips on sharpening my corner chomper, guys. I haven't tried it yet, but everyone says use foil, and I'm going to try it. If it will save me from having to buy another one, I think that's fabulous. Thank you for all your tips. I appreciate it. Okay, now we're going to add this thin strip. We put the blue in aside. We're going to add the real thin red gingham. Using the grids on my craft mat, I'm going to go a 1/4 inch up on this panel, and then we're going to use glue and secure it. We're going to kind of skip that little circle that we trimmed in that very top piece. No worries. We're going to do the same thing to our smaller piece, 1/4 inch up. This time we're going to do the opposite end. And then we put this little piece to good use. Love doing that. And I think the red's going to look a lot nicer than the blue. Okay, so this is our blue panel front. And this is going to go on our card. We're going to leave about a 1/4 inch gap in between when we adhere it. Love that. Now we're going to go ahead and adhere our sentiment. Again, this sentiment is very, very thin, and the glue that I use is the Journey glue, and the nozzle on it is pretty thick, so it's not great for fine detail. So I'm just going to take some of it, but it works fantastic, guys. Great glue. But I'm just going to scribble some of this glue on some scratch paper, and then kind of drag my sentiment inside the glue. This way I don't get adhesive all over my hands, and I get it all over the back of my sentiment. It works out great. I'm going to go ahead and add the thanks closest to the corner, the rounded corner here, and the excess pieces, one of them we're going to use, so we're going to keep one, just trim off the excess, and then we're going to drag this piece through that glue, and then we're going to add this to the seam of our red gingham on the very top. Gives it a, kind of looks like a thread. If you want to put thread there, I think that would look nice too. Okay, there is our sentiment ready to go. We're going to flip over our red panel, and we are going to use our tape runner and adhere this to a standard A2 size card base. This is going to leave me again a little bit of a white border on the edges. Press that down. That's ready to go. Now these pieces, again, we're turning a square card into an A2, so I think in the center it's going to look fabulous. I was going to offset it a little bit, but I think the center is going to work out great. So that's basically what we're going to do. We're going to flip over each one of our circles and add foam squares behind it. Now in the sketch it shows these circles as buttons. If you want to use buttons, I think you very well could, but I thought we would die cut out circles and use them as kind of lemons. I think lemons are so refreshing and almost just reminds me of summer, country summer, like lemonade almost. So that's what I was kind of going for here with those yellow circles. I added adhesive behind my leaf flourish too. Now we're going to pop up our blue panel. You can use foam squares or foam tape, but I'm going to use fun foam. I have lots of fun foam. It's adhesive back, so I just have to add adhesive to one side. We're just going to trim down a few pieces that will fit behind each one of our blue panels, and then we can go ahead and line those up. We're going to line them up in just a little bit. First, we're going to add our yellow circles. We're going to add the largest one, tack it down to the largest blue panel, kind of tucking it under the smaller blue panel, and then we'll take the smallest yellow circle and add that to our small panel, kind of tucking it under the larger panel. And I think that's going to work out great. Once they're adhered, just for placement purposes, we're going to flip them over and then add the fun foam. Just remove the release paper and add this. This seemed to work out a little bit better for me. Then we can just tuck it, and it's already positioned. Remove the release paper and add both of these, and it looks fabulous, lining up that thanks in the very bottom. Now for our middle size yellow circle, we're going to add it to the middle circle area here, kind of going over the 1/4 inch gap that we created. And then we're going to go ahead and remove the release paper off of our green leaves and tuck this underneath, the stem at least, underneath our middle circle here. And to me it looks like either yellow flowers or lemons. I think it looks very, very refreshing. I think I'm going to take that smaller circle and keep it on the outside. I did tuck it under but changed my mind. We're going to keep that out on the outside. Okay, I think this is looking really good. Now we're going to add a few little extra country touches. I'm going to be using some wooden buttons. I'm not sure if I can find these buttons or not, but these are from Jelly Bean Soup. But any kind of buttons would work, guys. I think wood would go really good with the country feel. So I have 2 flower buttons made from wood. The largest one I actually threaded some white twine through, and then I just used a glue dot to secure it, and then added a smaller flower button just above the thanks here. And I think that looks so fun. Just need one added touch, and I think we're going to bring in some Journey Glaze. Journey Glaze is like a glossy accent. It's from Fun Stamper's Journey, and what it does is it goes on a little bit cloudy, but it does dry clear, but it does add dimension and shine to whatever you put it on. In the blue pattern paper in the background, there is some circle prints, and there's a large one and a small one. I'm just going to add a small dot of my Journey Glaze to the center of the larger, like, flourishes or flowers in the background. Just going to add a little extra texture to my card when you tilt it, and a little bit of dimension. Now I was going to call it done, and it's just sometimes it doesn't flow right for me, so I'm going to die cut out using the same cardstock, the same die, some more leaves. I just die cut out the same leaf flourish but trimmed it to where I have the smaller leaves in it. I want to add a little bit of glue, and we're going to tuck this just underneath that smaller yellow circle. I think this is going to make it a little more balanced, and I was happier with just that little added touch of green. But that's my card for today, guys, using Retro Sketches number 133, part of my DSP Paper Play series. This is card number 8. At the end, there's a couple more DSP Paper Play series. If you missed some, just click on there. It'll take you to them. But thanks so much for joining me. I wish you a fantastic, fabulous day, guys. Thanks for joining me. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.